Jason Lamb, University Vice President and Director of Athletics and Head Coach of our men's lacrosse team. Thank you all for coming. We're excited. We extend a special welcome to founders Glade and Kathleen Knight, the Van Noy family, and our guests from NFL Films. Can you all please stand? Knights, Van Noys, and our NFL Film fans. Thank you for being here. Today, we'll be privileged to see the premiere of Unlikely Champions by NFL Films producer Angela Torma. Jeff Benedict, our New York Times bestselling author and director of the university's Institute for Writing and Mass Media, is hosting Angela and the NFL Films crew, and will be introducing the film and explaining the new film, so a second film that they are doing here on campus this week. The film features New England Patriots starting outside linebacker Kyle Van Noy, brother of SVU alum Travis Van Noy, who will speak also after the film. Jeff will then share the rest of the story, a new film, as I mentioned, being shot this week here on campus, featuring former Baltimore Ravens star and Super Bowl champion, our own SVU football assistant coach, Ed Mulitalo. Ed will be our concluding speaker. I have just a few announcements. First, if you want to join the pregame party tomorrow, the pregame tailgate party tomorrow, please meet at the Institute parking lot at 11 a.m. to walk together up to the fields. By the way, a new tradition we're establishing. The first 100 student fans to arrive to the Institute parking lot by 11 a.m. in a crimson shirt will receive a wristband for a free meal from JJ's Meat Shack at the pregame tailgate party. This meal compliments of the Office of Student Life and SVU Student Government. At 11:15 tomorrow, this walk will begin to the fields. The shuttles will also be available, which begin and pick up at the Institute. Everyone's invited to the tailgate party, student and alike, at 11:30 a.m. up at the pavilion at the new stadium, where you can purchase food from JJ's Meat Shack and ice cream from the Holy Cow, followed by the game, which kicks off at 1 p.m. NFL Film Crew, the NFL Films crew, will be filming at the game tomorrow. Don't miss out. Pretty amazing experience. Immediately following the convocation today, the university is providing a new crimson t-shirt for all students, faculty, and staff, provided after here in the parking lot right outside the Knight Arena. Please wear your shirt. Thank you to our student life. Please wear your shirt to the game on Saturday so we can pack the stands with crimson red. We also invite you, not to be missed, to enjoy and to take in the SVU Theater production of Murdered to Death. Don't miss out. Thank you. The production is tonight, tomorrow, in Chandler Hall at 7:30 p.m. This is a great production. Everyone should get there, so packed weekend. We'll now sing the first verse of Come Ye Children of the Lord. We thank Dr. Kyle Nielsen as chorister, following which Matt Gowdy, SVSA Communications Senator, will then offer our invocation.
Last week went so well, we're going to try an a cappella again. This is your first note. Come, ye children of the Lord, let us sing with one accord. Let us raise a joyful strain to our Lord who soon will reign on this earth when it shall be cleansed from all iniquity. When all men from sin will cease and will live in love and peace.
After a brief introduction by Jeff Benedict, our own Jeff Benedict, we will premiere Angela Torme's new short film, Unlikely Champions, featuring, again, New England Patriots starting linebacker Kyle Van Noy. Following this film, we will then hear from Travis Van Noy, brother of Kyle, and Travis was a member of our 2011 USCAA National Championship basketball team here at Southern Virginia University. Jeff will then come back and introduce the second film that's being shot here with NFL Films this week, and Coach Edwin Mulitalo, Ed will be our concluding speaker, sharing some thoughts as to why he has come here to Southern Virginia University. We will conclude with a closing hymn, Love One Another, and our benediction offered by Crystal Cleveland, SVSA Academic Senator, Professor Jeff Benedict.
If I were going to summarize in one sentence a lesson here, I think today is that the most important part of dreaming isn't the vision, but the patience that's required to see it through. When I was a professor here about 6 years ago, I met a student, Travis Van Noy, in my class. He was a great student and a great kid at the time. I had no idea that he was the brother of Kyle Van Noy, who at the time was an All-American linebacker at BYU. And I was writing a book on college football called The System, and I was looking for an All-American player that I could shadow through his junior year while he had to make the decision of whether to leave early and enter the draft or stay in college and get his degree. And thanks to Travis, I got introduced to Kyle, and Kyle agreed to let me follow him through his junior year. And I profiled him in the book and in Sports Illustrated. And today he's a member of the Patriots, and you're going to see in a minute a wonderful film that NFL Films has made that shows the pattern and the path that he's followed. But for our purposes here at SVU, what I think is interesting for us and important is the connections that were made in our small college. And starting in a classroom with a student who I had and who opened a door for me at BYU. And then when I arrived at BYU to interview Kyle for the first time for the book, the sports information director at BYU assigned a staffer to be the liaison between myself and Kyle. And her name was Morgan Jones, who was my former intern and student from this school. And so if you think about the connections on both ends of that story, a student on this end and a student intern on the other end, and then what came of that, 6 years in the making, was a great book that we wrote that Kyle was a key figure in, and then more stories that we wrote after, and now a film that really encapsulates a journey that was a family journey. Kyle's story is extraordinary. It's about character, it's about toughness. I knew the first time I saw him that this guy had the goods to play in the NFL, not just because he was athletic or an All-American, but you could just tell when he talked, when you were around him, that he was different than everybody else. And different is good when you're trying to do something as big as play in the NFL or be a champion like he was. But his parents are the same way, and I feel really grateful. And I think our college has been lucky that we had Travis come here. And we get to know these people a little bit for who they are because they've produced two great sons. We're grateful to NFL Films because they took the time, they saw some of the things that I saw and decided to include him in a film about the Patriots Super Bowl team that had 3 players on it that were very unlikely to be on that team and win a Super Bowl. And so without any further ado, I'm going to sit down and you'll see a 14-minute film that Angela Torma directed and wrote, and then we'll go from there. Thanks.
Watching that again, it brings back those emotions of being at that game. That was a pretty awesome game to be at. And it feels like being at home, coming back here to Southern Virginia, being in this gym especially. I remember doing wall sits right there. I remember puking in the locker room right over there. So fond memories, SVU. It also just feels kind of strange being here just because I didn't graduate too long ago, sitting in the seats that you're sitting at right now. And I want to thank Jeff for thinking of me and inviting me to come and speak today. And I'd recommend anybody that's looking into taking this class to take it. It was at the top of my list of classes that I took here, just to be able to read the stories that he wrote and then hear from him from a first-hand experience of what he went through and the people that he met, the people that he was able to hear their stories and be able to give a voice to their stories. So I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about my experiences here at SVU, how I decided to come here. I think everyone that comes here kind of has a unique story, and because it isn't the big school that you grow up. I mean, some people do, but for me, it wasn't the school that, the BYU, Idaho, the bigger schools that LDS kids think of going to. I just started my third semester at BYU, Idaho, and I was playing intramural basketball there, and felt like I was good enough, or my fiance at the time, McCray, thought I was good enough to play college basketball. She would attend every single one of my intramural games, and she actually filmed all those games. And she was a dedicated fiance. And so we kind of compiled the videos, made a highlight tape, sent it out to a couple different schools out in Utah and Idaho. And then one Saturday morning, I got a phone call from Tony Caputo, who started telling me about this school out in Virginia. So Virginia wasn't on my bucket list of places to go to. And I came out by myself and visited the school and thought, hey, let's give it a shot. I'm going to get married. 2 months after getting married, we're gonna move cross country in a little tiny U-Haul, driving from Utah to here. So I'm sure many of you have experienced that or are experiencing that right now. And we lived right above Brent and Deidre Dryden's dentist office. So to say BV was a little bit of a culture shock would be an understatement. But we grew to love this place, the people and the education that was provided here. So this film about my brother being an unlikely champion doesn't come as a surprise to me. Sports have been in our home from day one, with me and my brother as the only siblings, and my dad working in Parks and Rec. If we weren't in school, you could bet we were on a field or on a court, pinching in if someone didn't have enough players. My dad would say, "You got to come. We need players. We need someone to show up." So both Kyle and I can say that if we looked up in the stands, we'd see my parents there cheering for us. I'm thankful for their continued support and in both me and Kyle's current careers. So being involved in athletics from a very young age, involved with a lot of different teams, you could usually see from the first few practices if the people on that team were going to get along and if your team was going to be successful or not. My first year here was the year that we won the national championship, and I felt from the first few practices that team was going to get along, was going to gel and be successful. Two big factors to that team's success was Coach Caputo and Coach Pendleton. I'm sorry, Coach Caputo, if you haven't told this year's team about Alonzo Cushing, but it was a story that stuck with me and left a lasting impression. I can remember he told this story when we were on our way to play the University of Valley Forge in Pennsylvania. I think he was probably upset because of lazy defense or getting frustrated with us not being motivated for a game. But this story did motivate us, and we did end up winning the game in that tiny gym with fans on top of us. The story is about a Civil War soldier who died in battle and received a Medal of Honor. Here's an excerpt from his story. First Lieutenant Alonzo H. Cushing distinguished himself by acts of bravery above and beyond the call of duty while serving as an artillery commander. During the American Civil War, that morning, Confederate forces began cannonading First Lieutenant Cushing's position on Cemetery Ridge. Using field glasses, First Lieutenant Cushing directed fire for his own artillery battery. He refused to leave the battlefield after being struck in the shoulder by a shell fragment. As he continued to direct fire, he was struck again, this time suffering grievous damage to his abdomen. Still refusing to abandon his command, he boldly stood tall in the face of Major General George E. Pickett's charge and continued to direct devastating fire into oncoming forces. As the Confederate forces closed in, First Lieutenant Cushing was struck in the mouth by an enemy bullet and fell upon Confederate forces and opened wide gaps in their lines, directly impacting the Union forces' ability to repel Pickett's charge. First Lieutenant Cushing's extraordinary heroism and selflessness above and beyond the call of duty at the cost of his own life are in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflect great upon himself and the United States Army. So on First Lieutenant Alonzo Cushing's headstone it says, "Faithful unto death." I know that sports pales in comparison to war, but there definitely are some similarities. My dad would always say growing up, if you're going to start something, then you better finish it. This is something that stuck with both Kyle and I as we participated in different sports. Coach Caputo and many other coaches prior to him helped teach life lessons of perseverance. Getting our team to the point of winning a national championship came with its own hurdles and challenges, from players getting injured to our head coach Brian Pendleton having a severe stroke that put him in the hospital and severely inhibited his speech. As a team, this was something that could have torn us apart, but it unified us and required us to either quit and give up or keep working hard toward our goal of a championship. These life lessons have stuck with me and have especially helped me with my current job to not give up and to keep working hard daily. Coach Pendleton would often quote John Wooden, who was a UCLA men's basketball coach who won 10 NCAA Division I national championships in a 12-year period. And one quote from him that I really like is, "Success is peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you did your best to become the best you are capable of becoming." And a plaque I have hanging in my office that correlates with this quote is, "The dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately." I love these quotes because you can sit all day thinking about how awesome you want your life to be, but if you don't ever put in the work to achieve it, then it will stay just that, a dream. I am proud of my little brother for achieving his dream, and I know we can all achieve our dreams with hard work and dedication. I'm grateful for SVU and the education that I received here that is helping me reach my dreams. Thank you again for this great opportunity, and go Knights.
Come up and lower that. Hey. Thank you, Travis, for wonderful remarks, and again, thank you for introducing me to your family and for the connections that were made. It's wonderful to be a storyteller, and I think it's the greatest job in the world. Nothing that I'd rather do than tell stories. It's great to work with the crew from NFL Films, and last year, as many of you know, we had NFL Films here to premiere the Steve Young film, and Chris Barlow was here to do that. He was the one who made that film. And while Chris was here last year, he spent some time with Ed, both out at our house and here at the school. And Chris knew Ed and knew some aspects of Ed's story. And through the time that was spent here last year doing workshops and stuff on campus, the idea to make a film about Ed was rejuvenated and really took off. I think it's a great side effect of what we're trying to do here at the university by bringing talented writers and producers and directors, photographers to our campus to teach our students, but also to expose them to what we're doing here, what we're trying to build. And I think a great byproduct of that is that NFL Films is back here right now to make this film on Ed. Ed is a huge man with an even bigger heart, and I know that because I've had a lot of exposure to Ed in the last year and gotten to know him less as a football player and more as a man, as a father, as a husband. I've seen the way that he treats his wife and his children. I've seen the way he treats children in the community. I've seen the way he treats the boys that come here to play college football at SVU, and this is a foreign environment for them. And Ed is he's a great teacher. He's a quiet leader. He doesn't say much, which I think makes him much more influential because he leads with his deeds instead of his words. So I'm thrilled that a film is being made by him. And, you know, for all you football players, I'm going to call an audible right now. And, you know, quarterbacks should never do that unless they have really good communication with their linemen. If I was ever going to pick an lineman, it would be Ed. And so I whispered in Ed's ear before I got up here and said that I feel like it would be like not right for me to introduce Ed in this film without letting Angela Torma, who's actually the filmmaker, who made the film you just watched and is making this film, say hello to you and tell you why she's making this film. And I told her she's got a minute. And so Angela, come on up.
First off, I want to thank Jeff for inviting us to be here. We've had a wonderful experience, and everyone with the university has bent over backwards to make us feel welcome and help us along our shoot with Ed. Just wanted to say I've been with NFL Film since 2001. I started off in our international department. I wanted to do something in international business, and I can speak Japanese, or I used to speak Japanese a little bit, and they needed someone who could speak Japanese and sell our programming to clients in Japan. And after doing that for a couple of years, I realized that I didn't want to sell programming to a country that wasn't very interested in football, that I wanted to help create the programming. So after coming in on weekends and learning how to use the equipment and cutting highlights for our website, I ended up switching departments and have been producing since 2003. And been making all sorts of film. We made this Unlikely Champion film this past summer in August, and currently I'm working on a film on Jerry Jones and another documentary on Mike Holmgren, and we're down here shooting with Coach Mulitalo. We first became interested in doing a piece on him. We have a reality series that we do with a variety of teams every summer called Hard Knocks. Some of you may be familiar with that. We follow a team around the entire summer. We embed with them, and while we were with the Ravens, Coach Mulitalo did the haka dance. And hopefully we'll get you to do that tonight. And it was so powerful, we thought, you know, we got to do a piece on this guy, but it was still at the beginning of his career, so we kept following him along, and he was somebody who won a Super Bowl championship very early on in his career, and at the end of his career was on a team that went 0-16, one of the only few teams in the NFL to have done that. So we wanted to do a piece on someone who's experienced the highest of highs in the NFL and the lowest of lows, and all the lessons he learned while he was doing that, and now how he's passing those lessons that he's learned on to the team here at SVU. And something that we've learned also while we've been with Ed and interviewing the players that we did today is while he's concerned about the football players on the field, he's even more concerned about their development as men off the field. And that's a huge part of what makes Ed so special. So.
So I got a treat for you, real quick. Get in front of the student section and do our fight song. That's one of the traditions that we want to start. So that was awesome. Thanks, guys. I love the team. I love the players. It's an awesome experience to be here. And so, why SVU? For me, I'll make this quick. If I'm going to tell you why, you need to know who I am. And my parents I'm a proud Polynesian. My father is Moliki Pauvale Mulitalo. My mother is Fale Tupu Taisali Ali'i. My mother's parent is Sofa Pula Taisali Ali'i, and my mother was Ulu Tamamau Au. My father's father was Pauvale Tauvale Mulitalo, and mother was Tolima Mulitalo, and so I tell you that because I'm all about family. And in my college career, when I was at Arizona, I met my wife, a very beautiful wife, Laura. We had 4 beautiful children. I'm all about family. You know, my kids know that I love them, but they also know that I pick my wife over my kids. I don't know if she picks me over the kids, but I know I pick her. And I love football. Every time I just saw that the film, and I love football so much that I don't like the Patriots. So I love Van Noy. I love some of the players, but that's part of football. So you get to pick your teams. But I did love watching them beat the Steelers. I'm with the Ravens, so I enjoyed that. So that was awesome. I love football. I love the lessons that it's taught me and my family. The lessons of hard work. My father was a blacksmith. All he did all day was put steel in fire and turn them. He had these big forearms, and taught me that to stay in the fire. The fire makes the steel stronger, and I kind of portray that to my players, to stay in the fire. And so I'm a family man. I love football, and I love God. And I'm thankful for the relationship that I have with Jesus Christ. And that's who I am. So why SVU? Why Southern Virginia University? Obviously football. I love the coach. I hope to pass on those lessons. I'm a family man. I love being in a place where I can cultivate my family. I can have a good family environment. And also at the same time that I can cultivate my relationship with Jesus Christ. Those 3 things are if you can sum it up, is pretty much why I chose SVU. I mean, obviously we love football. We want to get this program going, but there's a lot more than football. I love being around people, serving the community, and that's why I chose SVU. I hope to meet all of you, everyone here, one time or another, and hopefully that you come out there and support us. But I just want to make sure that you understand who I am, and I would like to share my belief and my testimony in Jesus Christ. I've tried to portray that to our players too, is that having a relationship with Jesus Christ. There are some people in here that you can tell right away that they have a good relationship with Jesus Christ, and I hope that I can do the same. So that being said, that's why I chose SVU. Go Knights.